friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite books that I never talk about or rarely talked about or talked about so early on in my channel that most people probably hopefully haven't seen me talk about them. So I went through my bookshelves and pulled things that I know I have reread multiple times, like they sit very warmly in my memory, or they're things that I remember really enjoying and I would love to reread. So the first book I have here is The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Brashares. I remember this as quintessential summer YA reading. Now, I did not read a lot of YA as a young person because I was an asshole. I abandoned YA literature and children's literature, and so I went back to a lot of it as an adult. But this is one of those texts that I actually read at an appropriate age for it. I love the female friendships. I love how close and loving this group of friends is. And I feel like in so many YA books, especially of this time period, they don't pass the Bechdel test. There are rarely women talking to each other about things that aren't boys. Obviously, the girls in the Sisterhood do talk about boys. They talk about their relationships, and it's not perfect. It's very white. It's very straight. If this were written now, it would be a lot more inclusive because you have this opportunity. You have 4 girls. They don't all have to be quite so homogenous. For its time, for its place, the fact that there are such strong female friendships is amazing, and I am a little afraid actually to reread this because I am an adult. Definitely not the target market for it anymore. I haven't reread this book probably since high school. I'm also a much more critical reader at this point, and I am deeply worried that any fond memories I have of this book would be tarnished, but it still gives me happy good feels, and it feels like a summer read. I'm hesitant to recommend this to other adults, but I feel like if you have young people in your life, it might be worth it to check this out for the strong female friendships. Okay, the next book I have here, I try and bring up whenever I can because I think this is phenomenal. This is Woman on the Edge of Time by Marge Piercy. It is soft feminist science fiction. It's about a woman who is institutionalized for her mental health issues, and it thinks a lot about bodily autonomy. It also has this moment of fantasy where we are never sure if Connie is having some sort of episode or if she really is time traveling to a future where humanity has radically shifted its social structures so that parenting is a cooperative thing. Basically, it's a utopia. It's a feminist utopia. It's a book that I've reread multiple times. It came up in a couple of university courses, once in my undergrad because it plays with the idea of gender pronouns, and once in my MA class we did a course on visionary women. We were looking at Connie as a visionary woman in her sights into the future. It's a hard read for the times where you are in the present with Connie in the institution. The times where she's in this sort of fantasy sci-fi future are wonderful. So it's this real mix. And if you're into science fiction, soft science fiction, as in we don't know how the science works, that's my favorite type of science fiction, I would recommend this. Another book that I think about quite often, and I've been thinking about it a lot with this coronavirus stuff, this is Connie Willis's. This is Doomsday book by Connie Willis. This is, again, science fiction. It's more soft science fiction. It's like if Outlander and The Stand had a baby. Kivrin is a young scientist, historian person who has prepared to do research in one of humanity's deadliest points in history during the Black Plague. She is sent back to the past to do this research at the same time that a modern plague breaks out in the 21st century. We have these two plague narratives happening at the same time. Obviously, Kivrin has been immunized against all of these diseases, and she's going back to do research, and I believe she gets stuck there because in the present, her people who are supposed to pull her out are sick. Like, they also have a plague. It was one of my favorite books from the science fiction course that I took in my undergrad. I mean, it has a female protagonist, unlike basically anything else on the course, which were all like exactly what you expect of science fiction. If you were to stereotype a sci-fi book, men, war, future weapons, spaceships, that was like all of the books. Except for like this and Parable of the Sower. They were the only books by women and featuring women. This is the weird thing. It feels like if The Stand and an Outlander had a baby. It's the vibes of both books, right? The Stand, you have this plague, this apocalypse, right? Captain Trips, and it has affected a huge chunk of humanity and folks really don't know what to do. Outlander, you have that traveling to the past, sort of stuck in the past, can't get back to the present. Again, Claire in Outlander has nursing experience and she's like, okay, we gotta sanitize things. Don't rub sheep poop into your wounds. It's not medicine. Let's not do that, right? Like in both cases, this like horror of a plague and like having sort of life be out of control, plus the like time travel, medical aspects. I feel like readers of The Stand and readers of Outlander, provided you're not reading Outlander solely for the romance, will get a kick out of Doomsday book. Alrighty, the next book I have here is a book that I loved. I am in love with Eden Robinson's writing. I was tempted to put like all three of her books that I own on here, but if I had to pick one, I could only save one, it would be Monkey Beach. Her writing. She is such a skilled writer. So our main character, Lisa Marie's younger brother, goes missing in a boating accident. The family is on the edge of their seats, waiting for an answer. Is he alive and shipwrecked somewhere? Has he died? And Lisa Marie reflects on her youth and her teenage years, the experience of being an Indigenous person. It delves a little bit into the Haisla folklore that she grew up hearing and believing, and like the writing is superb. Robinson is able to give you a fully formed picture of a character in very few words. She knows exactly which words to choose to carve out a crisp image of a character. And like in a sentence, you get a sense of who this person that Lisa Marie is interacting with is. The story and the politics and like identity conversation aside, this is just such a beautifully crafted work. And if you have not read anything by Eden Robinson, I would recommend checking out Monkey Beach. So the next book I have here is one that I really, really, really want to reread. This started my love affair with Barbara Gowdy, who is one of my favorite authors. I have all of her works. For a while there, she hadn't produced anything, and so I had held back a couple of her works because I was like, well, clearly she's not writing anything anytime soon, so I haven't read all of her works. This is about a messy family relationship. It's about the Field sisters, the three Field sisters growing up in a home with their post-war, very militant, tyrannical father, and a interesting mother. The mother has dropped their baby brother off Niagara Falls, over Niagara Falls, to his death. It is messy, it is human, it is well written, and I feel like if you like the Virgin Suicides, if you like that sort of, I don't understand why this person did this, I don't understand why people this way, in the same way that you kind of don't understand why the Lisbon sisters all die by suicide. Falling Angels has very similar vibes. Also the sister relationships, which, you know, I love sister relationships, so cannot recommend this enough. So those are all the books that I have for you today. Would Harry Potter also be on this list? Yes, but I think everybody and their mother's heard of Harry Potter. Should Tamora Pierce be on this list? Yes, but I talk about her like every other video. I just squeezed her in now, right? Like, there are other authors that are definitely favorites that I definitely reread or want to reread, but I've mentioned them much more recently than any of these books. Before we go, we have to thank my patrons. Thank you, patrons, for making videos like this possible. I really appreciate the work that you are enabling me to do. If you are interested in becoming a patron and supporting the channel, link to the Patreon page will be on the screen and in the description box down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.